right, Steve, let's start with you. So all the transfers talked to the media except Julian Sayin, from what I understand. And what stood out to you?
Well, I think you had to be impressed. I think that all these guys came in and made a really good first impression. I wrote a story about Will Howard's segment. I listened to just about all of it, and very impressed with him. Understands what the mission is at Ohio State, what the expectations are. Said he came here to possibly have a chance to win a national championship. Said it came down, he had Miami and USC were also kind of involved for him, but said if he hadn't decided to come back to college, at Ohio State, he was probably going to go and enter the NFL draft. Said that his draft grade was only 3rd to 6th round, and he thinks he's got better ability than that. And, from his standpoint, when he made the decision, probably sometime in December, I know he announced it on January the 4th, he was coming to work with Ryan Day, and Corey Dennis was going to be his quarterback coach. Well, about a week later, they removed Corey Dennis from that job and slipped Bill O'Brien in there. And obviously Bill O'Brien, a veteran coach. So this was not the first time or the only time we would hear Bill O'Brien's name yesterday. Seth McLaughlin worked with Bill O'Brien directly at Alabama 2 years ago, and he gave him a glowing review, said he's looking forward to working with him again, says he's just a great no-nonsense type guy, a professional, and looking forward to the opportunity to rekindle that relationship and play with him again. McLaughlin figures to be the center at Ohio State this coming year. That's what it looks like, that he's coming into play center. I mean, I suppose he could play guard if Carson Hinsman maintains the center position. I honestly don't know, sitting here today on January the 31st, how that's all going to shake out. But those two guys, very impressive. I spent some time listening to Will Kazmarek, the tight end from Ohio University. Really interesting story. 2 years ago, coming out of St. Louis, Missouri, same high school as Jalen Pace, the son of former Buckeye Orlando Pace, who's on the team as a walk-on. And so those two guys reunited, said that everybody at Ohio University was happy for him to have the opportunity to go play in the Big Ten. And he says it was just his dream to play at the highest level. So that's why he made the jump to come from Ohio University to Ohio State. Says he notices the tight ends can catch passes and also be involved heavily in the blocking and everything else. So he's right out of central casting, it seems like, for what a tight end at Ohio State ought to look like. 20 catches last 2 years at Ohio University. So I think you got to be happy about his situation. And then I didn't spend a whole lot of time listening to Caleb Downs, but I know that everybody who did was very impressed with him. And I think the same thing for Quinshon Judkins. One of the funny moments, somebody asked him, where his name Quinshon comes from. And he just said, well, my mom and dad. So aren't we all named by our parents? So that was kind of a humorous moment in the morning's festivities yesterday. So, yeah, I was generally impressed with what I saw and heard from those five guys. And I think that it's not a stretch or a reach to think that all five of those guys are going to play starring roles on this team. All of them fill needs on this team and fill holes on this team. And I think it's got to be an exciting time. A funny thing, somebody on our board was asking about Caleb Downs and that's great. He did that at Alabama. He hasn't done anything at Ohio State. He needs to prove himself at Ohio State. Start him out at fourth team, and have him work his way up. And I'm like, yeah, I'm sure that's how that's going to happen. Just as Will Howard is going to start out, behind Lincoln Kienholz and Devin Brown and work his way up. Sure. So I said, I don't think that's going to happen. So that was a lot of what I saw and heard yesterday. And again, I think you got to be real excited about the direction things are headed when you add these kind of quality people, I think, to your mix.
Kevin.
Yeah, I was in on the Quinshon Judkins interview. I was running 3 cameras, so when you're running 3 cameras, you really don't get to hear much of anything. You're just minding 3 cameras.
Wow.
With Quinshon, very excited for the opportunity. Not there was a day and age where backs were all about wanting to be the feature back and get 30 carries a game, and he understands, already making the business decision of trying to keep tread on the tires. Really excited about partnering with Trevion Henderson and Dallin Hayden to create, the best running back room in the nation. Steve brought up the joke about the name. That was a very lighthearted moment. I asked Quinshon about how much he knew about Big Ten football going into this and how quick of a study he's needed to be. And he's like, yeah, I didn't know much. I didn't know how big the Big Ten is. I mean, obviously with the addition of the 4 West Coast teams, I mean, it's that much bigger. And in week 7, I believe, he'll be part of a team going out to Oregon and doing that. Joked about it being cold up here. He's originally from Alabama. I'm sure they have some cold moments, but not to the level that we have up here. And I understand certainly there are parts of this country that are colder than Ohio, but if you talk to any Southern recruiter, it is ice station zebra up here. I was in on the Caleb Downs interview as well. I mean, just, very impressive kid. I mean, he, I honestly think that he would have gone to Ohio State out of high school if Nick Saban was not on the table. I mean, I think even Alabama could have had the success that it had, and you just remove Nick Saban out of the equation. I think he would have picked Ohio State. Obviously, his relationship with Tim Walton is strong. I mean, he's, very impressed with everybody that's around. He was asked if he feels that he is that last missing piece in the Ohio State defense. And he's like, that's not really for me to say. I'm just here to compete and be elite. And I just want, I want everybody around me to get there. But as he kind of talked through it, it certainly did sound as if there is recognition that if everybody does their role, that this could be a very elite type of defense. Steve kind of touched on the other 3 players. I heard bits and pieces, as I said, but I think the overall feeling coming out of those interviews is, very well put together group of players. I mean, we're talking about guys with a couple years to 1 year of eligibility left. So they've kind of gone through the wars. They've already been kind of coached how to talk to the media, and they all did a good job.
Kevin, do we have a recruiting update? Anything going on out there? People have put in the chat that James Laurinitis is giving smoke signals, Morse code, something on Twitter that is leading us to believe something.
But we don't have enough of a track record to know every time he posts "the" in all caps if that is coming off of a great in-school visit, if that's a precursor to a boom. I mean, there are even people are like, oh, he's just, he must have just been elevated permanently to one of the 10 counting coaching spots. I'm like, I don't know if he's necessarily going to try and scoop himself at that point. I know that he's certainly been very active on the road, gone in to see Tarvos Alford out of Vero Beach, Florida, a linebacker there who I really like Ohio State's chances of landing. But no, I'm unaware of anything that is breaking in this moment because there have been other "the" posts and it hasn't necessarily led immediately to the announcement of a commitment. So I don't think that we have the map legend on this one yet to know exactly what classify and what requires this type of social media post.
Is this maybe like his version of when recruits drop a top 4 or top 5 list? It's like "the" has made it to the top 3 of somebody's list. You just don't know about it yet. I will also say when he does finally get hired, he's not going to tweet out he's probably going to tweet out me. And that will be the signal that he has been promoted. It'll be more about him than about the Ohio State.
I went through the top 500 players in the country, according to one of the services, and then the composite as well. And there's about 20 that are unsigned, but I'm sure most of those are very hard commits that have been made in the last couple of weeks. So is there any possible drama out there connected to Ohio State for a week from Wednesday?
I mean, they're going to get this, Dominic Kirks will sign. I mean, he's committed to Ohio State. Fans were hoping that Ohio State was going to be able to maybe move in on Dominic McKinley out of Louisiana. As quickly as people got excited about that, he committed to LSU. That doesn't seem to be moving in any other direction. I don't really see a scenario of where they move in on any other 24 players, because you are going to have to, you're going to have to settle your books at some point. And those books say you got to be at 85. There's a lot of debate because the NC2A likes to keep things cloudy of when you really have to be at 85. I've heard 18 different versions, but I will say something I do know. Summer enrollees are not counting against Ohio State's 85 at this moment. So that's how you can kind of get away with spring because of that. But if Ohio State were to add anybody in 24, that just means another player that would have to move on. So you don't just go out there looking for the brightest, shiniest bauble on the counter just for the hell of it. You need to make sure that every kid you bring in, you see a path for.
Okay.
I agree.
Steve agrees.
Yep.
Kevin gets the gold star.
Yep. Kevin is on top of all this. When I need to know what's going on, I ask Kevin what's going on. So
when I need to know what's going on, I ask Mark Gibler what's going on, because he follows this a lot closer than I do. I'm his sidekick on our Skull Session Recruiting podcast. I know enough to be dangerous, but that's about it about these things. But for the Laurinitis, I feel pretty confident in what I said in terms of we don't know the map legend here yet as to what gets said. Maybe at some point we will get to talk to him, and maybe we can even ask him about that. And I'm sure he'll be like, "Oh, I don't know. I just tweet how I want to."
Tweet what I feel.